Compelling stories are not hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Join your host, Dr. Eric Shaw, prosecutor Ryan Frank, writer Adrian Bonenberger, and comedian Ryan Connor as they interview ordinary people about their extraordinary experiences. This is Baggage.
Hi, and welcome to Baggage. Tonight with us, it's me, Eric, and we also have Ryan Connor and Ryan Frank with us. I'm pleased to introduce a kind of interesting guest tonight, someone who has a unique story to tell us.
A very interesting guest. Yeah, kind of interesting.
We've had all sorts of kind of quirky things on this show, from librarians to scientists to teachers. Not everything is all hard and heavy, firefighters and soldiers and stuff like that. So tonight we have Kimberly. She is a circus performer, and she has quite the story to tell us tonight. So, Kimberly, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me on the show. I am a circus performer out in Chicago. I do a little bit of everything, not just performing. I teach, I juggle, I unicycle. My neighbors think I'm absolutely wild. So, yeah, I've got a whole lifetime of stories here.
Before we get into the hard stuff, tell me, how does one become a circus performer? That seems like an interesting niche profession. And it's not like there's a pathway from high school or something to that. How did you get there?
I think there is a pathway. I learned how to ride a unicycle when I was third grade, probably. And I'm going to age myself. You have that giant JCPenney book with all the toys in it that used to be like probably 2 inches thick. And I circled everything. I circled a unicycle, and my mom and dad always wanted to learn, so they bought it for me, and I practiced every single day after I got it at Christmas, all through the winter, and the first day of spring, I took it around the block, and I guess 20-something years later, I'm still riding it, and it's still the path I kind of ended up on.
Can I ask, just because picturing unicycles in a circus, are we talking like a 3-foot, 4-foot one, or are we talking one of the giant ones? Like what do you ride when you're performing?
When I started, it was small. I perform on my 20-inch one. I also have one that's 5 feet tall, 7 feet tall, one with 3 wheels that are stacked on top of each other. I have just bought one that's like an angle shape. I can jump rope on it, juggle, so a whole bunch of stuff.
Wow. That's incredible.
Thanks.
Holy cow. Is there like, I know like there's the clown college thing that Barnum used to do. Is there any sort of groups or schools where you can kind of get together to like hone your skills or learn new stuff?
Yeah, there actually is one in the U.S. I think it's called NECA. They also have a local one here in Chicago out of Actors Gym. And there's one all the way in Australia you can go to called NICA, and it's college. You go to college just to learn how to be in the circus. You can master in clowning, or you can master in juggling or aerials, and it's becoming really big now.
Wow, that's so cool.
Okay, so you unicycle, you juggle, you do those at the same time. You said you jump rope while unicycling. Are these the things that you do for the entire show? Are you part of other acts as well, or how does that work?
Yeah, basically in different types of circuses, you can work for a circus, like a 3-ring circus, or you can work for private companies that hire you out for your individual skills. So while I've been in shows, I've been in huge productions, I make most of my living off of smaller events, such as just stilt walking for a kid's party, or a street fair, or a festival, or a fire show for an event. You know, it's a lot of a little bit of things. Like while we're training for a bigger show, we all have to still have our day job, and we still have to work and do smaller events in between all of that.
Gotcha. Well, when I was a kid, I remember going to the Barnum and Bailey Circus a couple times and seeing the person shot out of the cannon. So does everyone get trained on being shot out of a cannon, or is that a special, like you're the cannon person?
There's always a cannon person. It's a huge risk. Barnum and Bailey's is back now. It's touring again, and there is a shot out of the cannon person. There's also a unicyclist, Wesley Williams, who rides, I think it's 26 or 36 wheels now. It's like a zigzag. You're going to have to look it up. It's wild. But they're breaking the walls down with what they can do nowadays. I think it was a lot more unsafe to be shot out of a cannon than it is now. But yeah, you definitely have to do some training.
Yeah, I mean, it just looks like, okay, the first person for each cannon's going to die, is what it looks like. It looks like, how do you do that? You just a room full of foam for the first one? Like, how do
There's a
I
giant
cannot
net,
imagine going first.
There's a tightwire group that came to the US and they actually didn't want to use nets. So eventually someone would fall, and slowly their entire family ended up like falling at some point. Like people got seriously killed off this tightwire because they were too stubborn to bring their nets, and they didn't come to the US for their shows. So they're like, well, we're too good. We'll just do it without them. And yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh God.
The names of who they are totally gone, but yeah, that happened.
So that was an old French thing. They thought they were too good for nets.
Yeah, too good for nets. They thought, but then they're like, well, let's just walk between these two buildings, and that didn't go over too well for one of them.
Do you ever do any of the balance stuff, like the tight wire? Have you tried it yourself?
I have tried. I am not great at it. So unicycling it feels different to me because it's like how I grew up, where walking across a tight wire is, you have to actually have really a different kind of balance. Mm-hmm. Like I trip walking down the street, like just over nothing, but I can ride a unicycle like any day. I can ride a unicycle with the backpack on, texting, holding my groceries all at the same time. But you try to get me to walk down the street, like just walking my dogs, I'll trip on something.
Wait, so do you use your unicycle just for getting around town in Chicago?
I used to. Actually, now I have an electric unicycle, which is self-balancing because we're from the future. So it goes about 18 miles an hour, mine does. And yeah, people are riding those all over now. It's wild. So I sometimes bring out my manual unicycle.
What is it you like about a unicycle over a bicycle?
I never actually learned how to ride one. I never learned how to ride a bike until like a few years ago. So I guess I always liked it. It just made more sense. I felt like it's something other people couldn't do. And I didn't make a lot of friends riding it, don't get me wrong, but I was an art kid and I had fun, and that's, yeah. I was that weird kid that rode it to school.
Yeah.
It is a conversation starter. When I was in college, there was a kid that would always ride his unicycle around campus, and he made friends with everyone. And it was just like a great way to kind of break the ice, I think.
Yeah, it's a really small community, so I probably knew him.
A friend of mine who after knowing him for 8 to 10 years, I found out he was a big unicycler from a unicycling family. I had no idea.
There's whole families of them. There's a unicycling festival I travel to in Minnesota, and the whole family will go around the track. There'll be one pushing the little kid on this little one with a stick. It's just wild.
Kimberly, why don't you kind of walk us through your story and the tale you have to tell?
So yeah, when people hear this story, they usually ask me the same question, like, how did you end up in another country with somebody you barely know? In 2015, I really didn't have any reason not to trust people. I was 24 years old. I was living just outside of Chicago, completely immersed in the circus world. If there is a festival happening somewhere in the country, chances are I was probably there, teaching classes, performing, juggling, spinning fire, or hanging upside down on something. Circus wasn't really just a hobby. It was my identity, and it's kind of where I felt like I finally belonged. Growing up, I was that weird art kid who rode their unicycle to school. I never really quite fit in anywhere else but in the circus community. I found that out pretty quick. I tried out for cheerleading. It wasn't great. Yeah, everybody was celebrated for being different, for being in the circus. Like, we were all just different in our own ways, and I feel like I really needed that family. My dad had died only 5 years before that. My relationship with my mom kind of fell apart. I was single, long-term relationships on and off, yada, yada. I didn't really answer to anybody anymore. I saved up money from performing. I didn't have obligations, so I wanted to see the world. I wasn't looking for danger. I was looking for adventure. That adventure began at this really small flow circus festival up in Minnesota. It was called Campfire. I don't believe it's a festival anymore. If you've never been to a flow or circus festival, it's hard to describe the feeling. Hundreds of people from all over the world, they come together and teach and learn and literally like play with toys all day. It's incredible. It's never competitive. It was just, this culture is built on trust and kindness and creativity and complete strangers just becoming friends. And I never really had to keep my guard up in this place. It was one of the few places like I felt safe. I had been hired to teach a class, so I'm walking around the festival and I noticed something that caught my eye. It was a unicycle workshop in the middle of the woods. Totally caught off guard. I'm like, oh, I do that. Let's wander on over there and see what's going on. I met the instructor and his name was Quinn. From the moment we started talking, it felt effortless. He was funny, confident, charismatic. He had this way of making everybody paying attention. He's joking. He was adorable, just a little literal clown, I guess. Looking back now, I can admit it was a little cringe, but I was totally captivated. Not because he was super handsome, but because he had this life I wanted, where you were able to travel and perform for a living. He worked as a busker. Busker is like a street performer with like big circle shows where they have someone juggling or doing a trick in the middle and then talking to you for a long time until you give them money at the end. It's like, it's really cool to me, okay? And he lived in Vancouver, Canada. He spent his summers performing all over the world, and I kind of just wanted that life. So by the end of the festival, we spent like every moment together juggling, riding unicycles. We had our own unique flow props. He had a Diablo, which is like a Chinese yo-yo with the 2 strings and throw it in there, catch it, throw it, catch it, do like whooshoo catches. I don't know. Maybe that was in your head. And I had a prop called Boogang, which is also special because it's an S-shaped staff that not very many people had or heard of back then. It's a little more popular now, but it was just me and a handful of people that even had these props back in the day. So like the festival ended, we didn't want the conversation to stop, so it didn't. We constantly talked to each other. Good morning, good night, I miss you, I can't wait to see you. And then one day he reaches out saying he was accepted to perform at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and this is over in Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
The Fringe is legendary for 1 month, like every year. Everybody gets together, they fill the streets, they're performing, they're said to make tens of thousands of dollars. He told me we could perform together. This is like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. There's just like one problem, though. I have to get there. He doesn't have money to buy a plane ticket. And I'm like, oh, I have a little bit extra saved this month. Why don't I just buy yours too? And we both go together. And oh, I'll surprise you too. I'll fly to Vancouver a few weeks early and we can spend a little bit more time together before we fly across the world to Scotland. Today, that decision seems completely unbelievable, but back then it felt like the beginning of this dream. I arrived in Vancouver. It felt like I made the best decision of my life. He met me at the airport, and for the next several days, everything was exactly how like I imagined. We explored, talked for hours. I got to watch him do what he loved. We would go to Granville Island, and he kind of showed me around about all the different spots he would perform at. He juggled knives while eating an apple. He did a routine with his Diablo, rode his tall giraffe unicycle, and ended with his fire juggling finale, and then put his hat out and got everybody to give him money. It was amazing. One of the events we did out there was at a farmer's market. It's strange what your brain holds onto after trauma. Like, I couldn't exactly tell you what we argued about that night. I honestly don't remember. Whatever it was felt insignificant. I remember being frustrated, but not scared. I know we were with a bunch of his friends. That's all I can really think about. And after the show, we went back to his house. He was unusually quiet and staring at his phone with this look I'd never seen before. And so he apologized for how he treated me that evening and then quietly told me his best friend, Joe, a person he had met in rehab, has just died by suicide. He overdosed. Everything about what we were arguing totally disappears from my mind. He's crying as he told me stories about their friendship. At one point, he showed me the scar on his hand. He got from playing with a pencil where you're just da-da-da, and he accidentally stabbed it through his hand. And it was such an ordinary memory that it made me feel it made me feel like the loss he just had was real. So all I wanted to do was comfort him, and I did. I held him while he cried. I listened. I reassured him. Whatever disagreement we'd had earlier didn't matter. We were leaving for Scotland in a few days, so I believed I was just watching someone grieve a good friend. Arriving in Scotland, it was incredible. It was like stepping into this other world. I remember the bagpipes everywhere. Honestly, horrible noise.
Did he know anyone in Scotland that you were going to be meeting there, or even when you were in the U.S.? Was there anyone else in his orbit, or was he completely isolated and isolating you with him, so there's no way you could potentially see anyone else judge his character?
Absolutely. In his orbit in Vancouver, I met a magician, another juggler, and a mentalist. Mm-hmm. I don't remember their names. I don't remember their faces. Mm-hmm. They're completely gone, but I do remember they were there. In Edinburgh, after we get there, we stayed with a few other performers in a flat together. We all kind of just had our separate little rooms. That was, I think, paid for by the festival. So we were with other people. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I remember the bagpipes and dragging your suitcase across everything's cobblestone, and I'm pretty sure everything was uphill. All of Scotland, uphill, every direction. It was absolutely crazy. And then there's performers just everywhere. I can't believe I'm here. Our days kind of settled pretty easily. We were in this place. It didn't take super long before something shifted. He started drinking a lot. His mood became unpredictable. Anytime that he would be upset or angry, he would bring it back to, oh, well, I just lost my friend. I'm really anxious before the show because I wanted to film the ending for him and kind of say, hey, this is for you. Shout out, this is for my friend who just passed away. But he never would say it. So he'd become unpredictable. Some days he's funny, charismatic person that I met, and others days he's totally withdrawn, angry, snapping over things. Every time I started feeling like something was wrong, he would apologize and remind me he was still grieving. And I felt guilty for questioning that. I kept telling myself grief affects everybody differently, and I just needed to be more patient. These escalated. Money really does affect people. And if you remember, I paid for his flight to get here, and we've been here for a few days. He's been in a few shows, and he's not really making what he said that he would. And we're not bringing in that type of money that he had promised. So, he would pay for dinner. So then I'd owed him my entire attention. I don't look at your phone. He's paying for this. Be present. He's still grieving. And I remember one of the walks home from a show, he was very different feeling. And out of the blue, he told me his friend John had been murdered. John, this is out of the blue, no idea who this guy is. I'm like, who is John? I thought your friend Joe had died. And he says John was a friend that he had known who used to sell drugs. And I guess he was doing something and the gang had killed him. So I don't remember any details of that story because of how many years it's been. I just remembered it completely consuming our lives. He would cry constantly. He'd drink even more. Every argument, every bad day, every moment where something felt off, it somehow came back to John. And he would tell me he's sorry for the way he's been acting, but he was devastated. He told me John's family asked him to write the eulogy for just a eulogy because, hey, he's your friend. Would you write a eulogy for the funeral, even though you're overseas? I remember him spending hours shut inside of the closet crying on the phone with John's brother. His brother's name is Nate. try and remember these names. They are significant. I would hear like his voice crack through the door of the closet as he tried to comfort Nate and talk him down and say, hey, buddy, like, don't do it. You don't have to seek revenge on your brother. It's not worth it. Nothing's good is going to happen from it. And like, I didn't question whether anybody was on the other end of those calls.
Kimberly, can I ask you at this point, how long into the relationship or the trip in Scotland is this?
I feel like I am about 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks into it.
Okay.
I spent about 2 weeks in Vancouver, and then I flew to Scotland. There's a lot in the middles of the things and the drab that you don't really need to, you don't need to know. People fight, you do these things, you make up. Yeah, so the night before the funeral, he still didn't write this eulogy, so I'm like, oh, hey, I'll help you. I'm really good at writing. Let me help you write the eulogy. Tell me a little bit about Joe. And so he did. We spent like the entire night writing it together. One of the flatmates, I'm trying to speak in the Scotland lingo, he was from Poland, and he had a laptop we used, and all the keys are in the wrong spot because it's super silly. But that's something I remember. It was so hard to type this out because the layout was completely different. It's just funny how like your brain holds on to these small details. The next morning's the funeral. He spent the day making phone calls, trying to join the funeral remotely. He kept saying the connection wasn't working. I remember thinking the timing seemed odd because if the funeral was taking place in Vancouver, it would have been around 6 o'clock in the morning there, like 5:30 a.m. That's like too early for a funeral. I noticed it, but then I like ignored it because by then I trusted him more than I trusted that little voice in the back of my own mind. Fast forwarding a smidge here, the festival ends. We return to Vancouver. Nothing has changed. He still has not paid me back. We're fighting almost every day about money. There still wasn't enough food. There still wasn't enough income. And honestly, I thought he was a little embarrassed. Like his show just wasn't it. It was not connecting with the audience the way that some of the more experienced performer shows were. I watched a guy for 45 minutes have a cup and a bottle of soda and pour it back and forth to the other one, hold it up, and the entire audience would look at it and be like, a little more on the right. 45 minutes, and he had us captivated. And he just, it's so silly. And I'm sitting there like, what is he doing? And then by the end, I'm like, more in the right cup. We're all there. We gave him all of our money. It was great. So some of these guys, they're there, like they're experienced. It's fascinating to watch. Like I think he was embarrassed. Like his street show wasn't really connecting. I feel like people walked away before the end. And then some other performers were kind of mentioning like some of your jokes and hat lines are a little overused or stolen from other entertainers. I thought we were just struggling financially. I never really imagined something bigger was happening. So we had one more fight. And then came the final story. He told me Nate decided to get revenge for John. And remember, we're back in Vancouver right now. We had a weird fight. He left for a while. He sends me a message and he says, Nate was killed. He got revenge for John. He went looking for the gang responsible and they had murdered him too. Then he starts telling me that years earlier he had also sold drugs and that he was terrified the gang would come after him next. The more he talked, the more detailed his story became. And for the first time, I remember feeling like genuinely afraid. Like there's gang involvement. They know you. They know we're here. Like what is happening? And he told me he learned about Nate's death through a news article. So my ears like perked up, like the light, everything's flashing. I was like, oh, can you show me that article? So he flashed it like in front of my eyes just for like a second. But I have this like very visual memory. I remember the headline. I remembered the photograph. I suggested we take a break talking. I was like, hey, go grab some food from the store. And the second he walked out that door, I searched for that article. I found it almost immediately. It was 7 years old.
Whoa.
Everything inside me stopped. I remember John. I'm like, wait, we were writing the eulogy in Scotland. and he showed me a picture of them together. And I could still see his face in my mind, so I opened up Facebook, and I'm scrolling through every single friend he has in there named John, and I found the right one, and like my hands are shaking. I'm typing out to John, "Hey, are you alive?" That's all I typed. I'm like, okay, he's obviously not going to respond. This guy died. I never expected him to answer a few moments later. "Yeah, what are you talking about?" So I'm just like, what? Everything's like completely falling apart. Every fight is making sense. Every apology, every tear, every excuse, every time I've been told to be gentle because he was mourning, our flatmates encouraged me to give him more love because they believed he was going through something unimaginable. Like, none of it was real. I started just like trying to put everything in my suitcase. Like, I don't know what's going on, but I felt like I've been in this like fight or flight ever since I got there. Like, just get back to Vancouver. Your flight is leaving. If you get there, you could go home. And I calmed back down. I turned on my camera on my phone and I put it on the counter. And right when he came back, I asked him to tell me the truth. At first, he denied everything. And then I started saying, "Hey, I found this. Here's the article. Here's the message from John. Everything's unraveling. Joe had never died. John had never died. Nate had never died. There's no gang. There's no murders. There was never a funeral. The eulogy we'd stayed up all night writing it was never read by anybody. The heartbreaking phone calls with Nate in the closet never happened because no one was on the other line."
So he was just talking to the air. It was all acting.
It was all acting. And why would I think someone could fake that, I guess? So it had all been fabricated. I listened to that recording again like a few days ago, and it brought me like right back into that apartment. He threw a few $100s at me because a few things that happened in Scotland unwanted, I ended up pregnant. So he threw some money at me for the abortion, begged me not to leave. He told me why he did it, and these words like ring in my ears every day. And it's sorry. He said, "I wanted to see if you would show me compassion in a time of need." He was playing a game. He wanted to know if you would still love me if I was sad. And hearing those words like changed something inside me because I thought things that were real, like everything starts unraveling. Like every tragedy was created to see how much I would sacrifice and how much compassion I would give for somebody else. I remember he got really drunk this night after he told me everything, and he's on the phone with somebody, and this person's real this time. He has it on speakerphone for some reason. And this guy says, "Don't worry, it didn't work with this one. You'll get it with the next one." I don't know what that means.
What?
I just knew like I had to get out. I've been in survival mode since I got to Scotland. We were in this apartment when we got back to Vancouver that locked. When you left, the door would lock.
And you were in Scotland for a month total,
A
is
month
that
straight,
right?
yeah.
For like the entire fringe? Okay.
Yeah. And then back in Vancouver, I would only be there for about a week, and then I would have gone home. So the door we were staying, like we were just staying at an Airbnb, it locks when you leave. So I couldn't leave without the key that he had. So I wanted to figure out how to get home because I don't really have much money left. I haven't talked to people that I was talking to. I realized, I don't know how to explain it. When you're in a situation like this, slowly you stop talking to your friends. You stop talking to your family. You don't even remember or know why. Like, you would be at dinner on your phone and they would get upset that you were looking at it for too long. So you slowly stopped being on your phone. You slowly stopped giving someone else that attention. So anyways, I grabbed my phone and I asked him for the key. I was going to go to the corner store. I promised I would be right back. So I'm just honestly running to find somewhere to charge my phone and someone to call to like say, "Hey, snap me back into reality because I need to get out of here." There was no outlets on anywhere. I went to the corner store. He's like, you can't charge your phone here. Leave. So I leave. I'm panicking. I'm at 2%. I get back to the apartment. I see an outlet like in the hallway right by where the door was. So I'm like, there has to be more outlets. I go up like 4 flights of stairs. I find another outlet. It was great. I called home. I told someone like, hey, this is what happened. What do I do? And they bought me a plane ticket home that left the next morning. So I just made it to the airport. I waited for him to pass out. I grabbed my stuff and I left. I feel like people think the hardest part like was escaping, and it wasn't. The hardest part was realizing like I no longer trusted my own judgment. For months, I ignored little moments where something didn't make sense because there was always another explanation. Like by the time I left, I didn't know if I could trust another person, but even worse, I wasn't really sure if I could trust myself, and I wasn't sure if anyone would believe me when I got back. The one thing I want people to like take away from my story, it's coercive control. It like doesn't happen because you're weak or unintelligent. It happens because someone's using your best qualities against you. I wasn't manipulated because I was gullible. I was manipulated because I was compassionate. And I believed people when they told me they were hurting. I wanted to help them. I wanted to love someone through the worst moments in their lives. Like, that's not a flaw. That's qualities I still want to have.
Was there a time period where you were worried that he's right behind me, he could be following me? Like, when did you get to the point where like, okay, I'm good, I'm safe? How long did that take?
I don't think I was safe until I went through customs, but then I still didn't feel relief from it. Like, I felt like I need to get out of here, but I have to be cautious because I unraveled his story. I'm here alone. I could be murdered. I was fully convinced I was going to die. Sorry. Yeah, I was terrified. The things he did when he was drunk in Scotland were unimaginable. I can't remember them because I don't want to. It was easier to show him more compassion in his time of need because it was safer, because every day in Scotland, I was scared. He will kick me out. He threatened to throw my stuff out multiple times. He threw my stuff out once. I stayed with some performers that I had met for the night. He begged me to come back the next day. I think he was afraid I was going to tell them what was going on. So I had to come back. He scared me. He scared me because he can look me straight in the face and say the most convincing story and it be totally fake. Like, how do you have a phone conversation with nobody on the other line and make it real? Like, it was real.
Right.
Just like skip forward a few months. I'm home. I'm safe. Some guy's like, hey, I want to take you to dinner. And he had to cancel on me. And he canceled on me because his grandma died. And in my head, I said, prove it. I didn't say it to him, but like I said,
Jesus.
Prove it. Like, no way your grandma died. Show me the body. I'm kidding. I would never say that. But in my head, I'm like, why is this the first thing I think of? Like, somebody's grandma's passed away. And now I'm upset that it might not be real. And like, what is real? So I lost a lot of trust in everybody. It feels like I was embarrassed by what happened. I thought people would hear my story and think, oh, I'm naive. Like, I understand what coercive control, it doesn't target a certain intelligence level or personality type. It targets people who are deeply empathetic, optimistic, loyal, and like willing to give others the benefit of the doubt, like the traits that make someone a great friend and partner. And, it makes them vulnerable to people that can see that and exploit it instead of cherish it.
Who were you first able to share what happened? Who was the first person you were able to feel comfortable telling them somewhat of what happened?
I told an ex of mine. I was with him for like 4 years before we broke up earlier that year. He's the one I called, and he's actually the one who paid to get me home. And then I told my brother, and my brother, if he knew where he was going to show up. He was going to show up there. And, for weeks after I left, he would still reach out. I left the line open in case he was to say anything more, that if I needed more proof and more evidence, I could kind of keep that line open. He would go from being like, I love you, I miss you, why are you doing this? Why'd you reach out to my friends? You bitch, fuck you, I found Jesus, I love you again. And it would go on like this he would be talking to himself for hours. And then he would be like, just tell me why you did it. And he's like, I can't over Messenger, I'll call you. I know why he wanted to do that, because it can't be in writing. But the thing is, he didn't know that I put my phone down that night and I recorded him confessing to everything. I have it in my computer in a little black box in a hard drive. Every single thing he confessed to about everything being fake, it's all there. And I've been too scared to tell anybody, because what else can he do? He can come back here. He can come and actually kill me. So it's safer to just move on.
Yeah. Did you try to get a restraining order?
That's a really odd thing to want, because when I tried, it happened in Vancouver, you have to get the FBI. The FBI, it happened overseas, so you have to get Interpol. We can't prove anything because you didn't get like a kit done. It was just this never ending, like, the cops want to just push you to someone else. They want to go here. I'm not getting Interpol involved. That's absolutely wild. And I don't want to tell the story 100 more times.
Yeah. Protective order is kind of synonymous with restraining order, depending on where you're at. And most law enforcement agencies, they're going to want identifying information. They have to serve him.
Yeah.
They have to get a local law enforcement to serve him internationally. I'm sure most law enforcement agencies wouldn't even know how to start that process.
I did not realize it was based on where the offenses occurred. I just assumed it was based on where you are, and I had no idea. Wow.
Yeah, and because it didn't happen here in Chicago, and it happening in Vancouver, and he actually left on another trip to Australia, so now we're like 4 countries deep. What do I do? Like I feel like sharing my story, if it helps even like one person recognize these patterns in like their own life and their own dating, or helps someone understand like why a loved one didn't just leave, like reliving these memories has been worth it. Like, I can't change what happened to me, but I can take away some of its power now by talking about it openly. The lies shaped a lot of my life.
Now we're in the summer of 2026 now for people listening at a later time or something. So how long ago did you last see him? How frequently did he continue to try to contact you after that?
So when I last saw him was that night right before I escaped. And I say escape because that is what I feel like I had done. He continued communication about all through September. There was one point in the middle of September where I actually did respond back because I felt like I was in so much pain. I was dying. At least that's what my head went into. I was pregnant. Like I had just told the story to my brother, and I felt like everything was going to fall apart. I ended up probably just having a panic attack in the hospital, and he kept the line open. I eventually would see him emailing me that I wouldn't read. He would comment on my Instagram posts like, please don't kill the baby. I know everybody has feelings of abortion in their own ways, but like, this is what I needed to do. I cannot tie myself to this manipulation and this murder type person because I feel like it would haunt me forever. I can't. Like, the pregnancy wasn't consensual. I don't want to get into that line of questioning because it is very hard to talk about.
During this period, was it a an escalation of physical violence in a relationship as well?
Yes. There would be times where he didn't like the amount of attention I was giving him. I would find myself stuck playing Candy Crush and my phone to cope with the noise, I guess. I didn't understand what was going on, so I would kind of just hide in my phone for a little bit too long, and he would get very mad. But I got really good at Candy Crush. I'm on level like 2000. I just yeah, he would corner me. I have fear of being stood on top of, because he would be like towering over me when he would yell. He would grab things out of my hands. He would throw me onto the bed. Like there were so many moments that I just don't want to remember. I would just let it happen because I didn't want to get murdered today. That's it. I didn't want to die. I just wanted to make it home.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think I had to show my passport to get back into the U.S. They were like, come on in. I'm crying. I'm like, let me into this country. I want to go home. They're like, yeah, okay, we believe you. Come on in. Like, I wasn't just leaving Vancouver.
On one of our previous episodes, I want to say it was the FBI episode, we talked about the cycle of violence and domestic violence, and it can be such a foreign concept to some people, how it's a slow burn, but sometimes you get that perfect recipe of, not to be gender roles here, but usually male has tendencies of being narcissistic, pathological, very controlling, and very good, very, very good at what they do and to get what they want, and to get someone just to move a little bit in the direction they want, a little bit more, and before you know it, you're in another country in a pretty dangerous, violent situation. And that's just really strange to some people.
Yeah.
To try to relate to that. They might not know anybody that's gone through that or experienced it themselves.
Yeah. I feel like in the circus community, specifically the busking community, their entire job is to trick you into believing that their show was good enough for you to give them money at the end. They could be doing the most basic trick of their finale is juggling 3 clubs balanced on a rollabola, and they build you up to get to that point, and they're right there at the tip of that point, and they're like, oh, and by the way, I'm going to put my hat out at the end of this, and here's my story of why you need to give me money. Oh, by the way, here's the finale trick, and they do it, and they manipulate you the entire time to give them money. And I feel like it's not every busker, but it is the game. They are trying to convince you to give them something that you have, that they want, that you don't really need to give them, all over something that is a pretty basic finale trick. Yeah, I feel like with the mentalists that we met, like mentalism, it really is the art of being able to pick your brain as you're speaking with somebody to kind of figure out who they are and use that against you to make you feel comfortable sharing some more stuff that they can end up using against you at the end of the show to tell you that, oh, your mom's here with us right now talking to you. Like, woo! Oh, and like they can hypnotize you too. I don't know how else to explain it.
Uh-huh.
I'm never going to look at street performers the same way again.
Oh, yeah.
Can I ask you? You referred to in the early days when you got to know him. I can't remember if it was he said it or someone else said it, but you heard him say, next time, or then you'll get the next one, or it was some phrase like that. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yes. This was after I had recorded him Everything Unraveled. So I'm waiting patiently for him to fall asleep and escape. He's on the phone just like drinking and on the phone with someone, and I don't know who it was. Like for years, I actually started researching like, is there some kind of ring out in Vancouver that like gets guys together to like, I don't know. I'm just skeptical at this point, or speculating, or whatever the word is. But this was a person on the phone and he knew what he was doing. So he was following some sort of like rule book or code on how to like keep a woman around to do
Mhm.
what you want them to do. Like it was almost like a group of people doing it. And
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds crystal clear that he's clearly done this to many people, right?
Yeah.
That's how it sounds to everyone, right?
Yeah. About like a year or two after, someone actually reaches out to me saying, "Hey, do you know this guy? He's doing this to somebody else, and I know you were with him last." He's doing it to another girl
No way.
out in Australia. And this guy's like, if I told him kind of a gist of my story, and he's like, maybe if you tell it on Facebook, people will be able to share it with her and maybe she'll get out too. And I did. And that's why it was taken down so fast. I'm like, well, I don't think I helped, but I do hope she gets out. I see his photo again a few years ago with another street performer. And I'm kind of following her. And I'm like, okay, they seem together. They seem like they're together a lot. And then all of a sudden, he's not in any more of her photos. So I'm like, oh, maybe things didn't end well. So I keep a tab open on her a little bit. And I end up reaching out and I'm like, hey, do you know this guy? And she has a whole story about him, how he was manipulating her, how he was an alcoholic, how he was abusive. And she's like, I don't want to get into it. And she ends up just fucking ghosting. Sorry, language. She just ghosts. She's like, I don't want to talk about this. It was too traumatic. And he's gone now. So we're moving on with our life. And I'm like, okay, well, he's still out there. He's still doing this. And he is going to do whatever he can to make sure he doesn't get caught.
Are you able to track him, or do you see him online at all?
Oh, absolutely not. I went no contact. It was safer that way. I don't want him to see where I am. I don't want him to. He must be smart. He must be able to put together where I would be. I don't want that anymore. I've been too scared to even share this because of, if you tell people, like verbatim in his text, if you tell anybody what happened, I will come there, and he genuinely will hurt me. So I didn't. And maybe he never will. You know, maybe he never would do that. But it's deep down in my head, like maybe he will. It like traps your mind into thinking that like you're like trapped.
Ryan, other Ryan, not me.
Yourself?
I'm not asking me a question. From the law enforcement side of this, is this something you see from people who are, I don't know, manipulative like this, that they figure out exactly how far they can go and like scare people away from, they made Kimberly think, well, if you go to the police, they can't help you, or I might escalate what I'm already doing. Is that sort of the common thread? Is there any way that people like this, that, they end up coming to an end on this, with law enforcement, or do they just tend to slip away over and over and over?
I don't have the stats, but I would say the vast majority of domestic violence cases, they don't get reported. And the ones that do, it's tough. It's tough to go through that process.
Mm-hmm.
I would say in the domestic relations court, probably half of the people, maybe more than half, by the time it gets to court, they're like, no thanks. I'm not interested in doing this. The more serious, violent assaults doesn't change that statistic. It's not like, well, it got so bad, he hurt me so bad, now I really want it prosecuted. Kind of the exact opposite. Right. In fact, I had a jury trial a couple weeks ago, and it was long-term. Drugs were involved, really violence, attempted to kill her several times. And still, she still was talking to him on the jail calls. And he was saying the most awful things to her. And it was horrible. It was a horrible thing to listen to. And one of the things I had to address with the jury was, you're going to hear these jail calls on how they talk to each other. Can you set that aside? Because he has manipulated her to the point of, you're not going to hang up on me. And if you do hang up on me, I'm going to call back and you're going to pick up every single time, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of calls. And most of the people in the courtroom would be like, if anybody said that to me one time, I'm hanging up and I'm never talking to them again. But they don't understand.
Mhm.
It took a long time to get to that point and that level of control over her.
Mhm.
And yeah. And so I don't know if that answers your question or not.
No, it does.
Ryan,
It
but,
does. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredibly frequent.
It just seems like it's one of those, I guess, few types of crimes where people can just be habitual offenders and you can just get away with it over and over and over again because it just seems like the process is just so brutal to go through. And yeah, I don't know.
The flip side of that is I had another one from last year where she was a strangulation victim. It was really hard for her to get to the point, and something we had to address with the jury of like, okay, now this incident, this is now the fourth time he strangled you. Let's talk about that. Where most people would be like, fourth time? Hold on now. Should I believe this person? We mean 4 times.
Actually, it takes 7 times. It's a national average, 7 times for you to leave the person before it finally sticks. So it's actually incredibly common that they'll go back because sometimes you're so estranged from reality that theirs ends up being the only one that you know. They will take you away from your friends, from your family, from yourself, your money, your confidence. They take all of it until all you have left is what little they will give you of positivity that will outweigh all of the negative.
Yeah, I think of it kind of like a cult of 2. All those things that make a cult, manipulation, isolation, in the beginning, euphoria, this is great. And just the slow burn of that manipulation until you got them. And you just know, and they get very confident.
You don't see it happening. Yeah.
Now, that was 10 years ago. Tell us, how have you moved on from this? What are the things, how has this affected your life? And what are the things you've done to move on?
He took a lot away from me. He took away a lot of my confidence. I had to get back out there. I had to continue proving to myself that he said I was bad at what I did. I'm good at what I did. Like, I kept practicing. I kept going to events, not in the same way, but I went to practice more, to learn more, to gain what little bit of confidence I had left. I started stilt walking. I was really good at that. It's surprisingly just another really hard balance that I was good at, because unicycling, balancing, it's the same. So I kind of fully immersed myself in that. In costume design, I ended up getting a dog. Best decision of my life. I started training him to do tricks. He did some shows with me before COVID. He performed all the time, and I just kind of fully embraced like myself. But deep down in the back of my head, I always felt like it was never going to be enough. It was never going to get me to where I want to go. I always felt, there's something better. There's not enough time to get there. There's not enough time in the day anymore. So I did a million different things fairly well, but none of them ever stuck. So COVID happened. My dog show kind of retired. I got a new puppy. I fully started training him. I started dog grooming full time. I'm doing that during the day. I really good at that. But there's something deep down where like I want to keep trying. I love playing. I'm 35. I love playing with toys. I don't want to go to the bar. I want to go out in the backyard and play with my toys. I love juggling. I'll invite friends over. We'll juggle. I have a whole aerial rig. Some people say my backyard is like my own circus school. I have a little bit of everything. I kind of think I do that now to cope. I have a partner now. I'm engaged. He is so nice. And it's a breath of fresh air. So yeah, I'm happy. I'm in a house I bought myself. It's great. And I just want this. I want this story to. I want the story to be told finally. I went through a bunch of all of the like screenshots and stuff I took and the recordings, and I went through all of that the other day. I'm like, I need to remember who I was then, because I forgot about it. I feel like I've dealt with PTSD for the last 11 years. I got my first dog and I trained him to be just the best dog ever. And I trained him to like help me through some of these PTSD moments that I get from these memories, from these flashbacks that I would get that would come out of nowhere. And he helped me through a lot of that. And now I just want to move on. I know I never will fully move on, but like I feel like this might help, because I listened to a few episodes ago, I think you guys were talking about, well, why don't you go to a therapist? I don't want to tell the story to them. I don't have the mental capacity to unravel it in the way that I did this week already, multiple times, to a guy that might not even be listening. And sometimes therapy is not for me. I'd rather juggle outside for like 4 hours than talk to anybody about my life. If that makes any sense.
Total sense.
That could be therapy too.
Yeah, it is. And then every year I perform at the Circus up the street. We put on a huge show. So that's what I look forward to every year now.
Kimberly, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing that story. And it's really good to hear where you're at right now.
Yeah. Thank you for listening.
Do you have any like social media stuff or YouTube channel or things that you would want us to share on our site to help promote your stuff?
Absolutely. My Instagram is kimberly.circus. Follow me there, but honestly, my dogs are tagged at the top of the page, so follow them instead because they're way cuter. You can see them skateboard and do all the cute tricks. My life is cool too, but come check out my life. I've created a really good one.
Well, Kimberly, thank you so much for sharing your story. This is genuinely something that needs to be heard. And I think more people need to hear this. And if there are people who are in these relationships, I think it just reinforces that there is a way out and that there is a way forward and that it is doable. Thank you so much for sharing. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime. Thanks for having me.
If you want to follow Kimberly, check the show notes. Ryan Connor, do you have anything to plug?
Yeah. Pre-order my book, 12 Guys Walk Into a Kitchen. It's my memoir about me and my giant family, and I will be out on a book tour promoting it beginning in late October. The cities so far are Albuquerque, Santa Fe, Roanoke, Richmond, Washington, D.C., Fort Collins, Denver, Portland, Boston, Rosendale, New York, which is the Catskills, and there are a few more cities coming. Several more, I guess. Seattle, I believe. Maybe Vancouver. I'm not sure. But and some others.
I'll see you in Denver.
Absolutely.
So thank you, everyone, for listening. Please rate, review, follow, and subscribe to the show. It really helps us out there.
Music for Baggage provided by Quincy Ledbetter. You can find his stuff at qledbetter.com. Graphics provided by Megan Weaver. You can find her at meganweaverart.com. Special thanks to our premium members for their support. You can become a premium member by clicking subscribe in your Apple Podcast app or by visiting thebaggagepodcast.com/support to sign up or to gift a membership to someone. A percentage of all proceeds go to charity. If you have any questions, comments, or a good story to share, please email us at thebaggagepodcast@gmail.com.